There's a lot of information to cover, so I'll try to do it as smoothly as I can. I may gloss over some things in favor of that. This video is more geared towards people who may be struggling with the fight. If you're having trouble with a specific weapon matchup, let me know, and maybe I could post a separate hunt for that. I know I could do gun lines for sure. Check the description or pinned comment if there is one. I'll put other hunts there if I do them. I'd like to explain the way I do things here first. The equipment I'll be using is chosen specifically to be relatively easy to acquire just before the assigned Arkveld quest, while still being effective. None of the materials should be particularly hard to come by. I specifically avoided things like plates and gems, and I hope I also avoided picking other monsters who may also be somewhat difficult. I'll also not be using a palico. This is to focus purely on the 1v1 with Arkveld, as while the support from felines are extremely useful, it can't always be relied on. You should use a palico if you're struggling. For the equipment, I'll be using the Longsword, as I'm the best with it, and it's also pretty popular, so hopefully this helps some most people that way. While there are many good options, paralysis is quite good, and even if it wasn't, the Lollabarina weapon is just very good, with a long white sharpness to help us out with damage. If you didn't know, the different sharpness levels will multiply our damage, with white being the highest right now at, I believe, 1.33 times. The weapon has 2 decoration slots, a level 3 and a level 2, which I put 2 attack jewel 1s in. If you have something better, feel free to use it, but I'm aiming to make this as replicable as possible. The armor I'm using is a mixed set consisting of G.E. Odegarin, Rathalos, Shiwu, and the Ingot Greaves. All of them are alpha, though if you'd like, you can compare the beta versions and pick them if the skill lost doesn't matter to you. This is especially good if you have decorations that you want to use instead, as the beta armors will have less skills than the alpha ones, but will have more decoration slots instead. If you wanted to, you could use the Rathalos beta chest, and maybe the waist, though you'd be losing a level of evade window from the waist, which may come in handy. If you're not sure, then just go with the alpha set. That's what I'll be using. In total, this will give us the skills, among others, Earplugs 3, Windproof 1, and Adrenaline Rush 4. I'll be using decorations, but only level 1 ones, as you can go to the Melder in Suja and make them if you can't get them from doing investigations. I put in 1 Wind Resist jewel for Windproof 2, and 3 Protection jewels to activate Divine Protection, which is extremely useful in mitigating damage. At level 3, it will reduce damage taken by 50% and will trigger, I believe, 25% of the time. Please remember that these choices aren't meant to be the absolute best things you can acquire for this quest, just ones that are effective while, hopefully, not being very annoying to farm for. The Shiwu Alpha Arms in particular are kind of awesome. It comes with 2 levels in earplugs with level 2 and 1 decoration slots. You can put an earplug decoration into the level 2 slot, and this one piece of gear will give you maxed out earplugs. While there are maybe better options, and earplugs are by no means a requirement or even necessarily practical past a certain point, I still find it to be a very useful quality of life, and would recommend it if you're still struggling, or honestly even if you want to be more aggressive and attack through the roars, which is particularly useful with Greatsword and other slower attacking weapons. The charm I'm using is the Blight Charm 1. There are other options, but this one is nice to help if it hits you with Dragon Blight. You could also use a Null Berry to remove it, but this is still nice if you want to ignore it or if it keeps getting applied to you, as Dragon Blight will just remove the paralysis from our weapon while it's active. The Arkveld Hunt I'll be doing is from the optional quest, The Chains of Life. I'm doing this one so it's more or less consistent. I'm not able to replay the assignment quest, Awakening from a Dream, but once you get more comfortable, I'd highly recommend you farm Arkveld in investigations instead, as the rewards will be much better. Though I would recommend you get a rarity 8 weapon before doing those. Be sure to try it in multiplayer if you're struggling alone, but above all else, practice. Learn what you can do, learn what the monster can do, and see how they can fit together. Observe the monster from a distance if you keep getting hit. Slowly work your way into the fight, backing off if you start getting hit too much. If you take too much damage in general, make sure your armor is up to date. Get a rarity 6 or 7 armor set at least, and consider upgrading it. The equipment I'll be recommending will be gear that you can acquire before the assignment quest, and I didn't upgrade it at all, so feel free to do that if you need the extra edge. The first few levels of armor upgrading are cheaper than the later ones. If you need help with another weapon, like I said, I could consider making a video of an example hunt with that type of weapon. Though I'm not as good with all weapons, I'd still give it a shot. It's my hope that my example hunts gives you a good idea of what to eventually aim for. I kind of play at a higher level, and maybe it takes some time to get used to all the mechanics, but hopefully with my help and some practice, you can get more comfortable and more confident when fighting Arkveld in general. Now, let's go over his attacks, then I'll show my example hunt with some advice here and there. a relatively common attack that is easy enough to deal with. If you need to avoid it without blocking or countering, try and place yourself behind Arkveld on the opposite side of this attack. This attack has a pretty nice opening after it. If you're using Longsword, this move is excellent for leveling up your gauge. Keep in mind it can come from his left or his right. Similar to the whip drag but moving across his body, it has less end lag than that one, so you should be careful if you want to try to get gauge off of this move. It can also come from his left or right. Another relatively easy attack to avoid. If you're having trouble, try and move to the sides, as it seems to aim towards where you were when the attack started. You could also try moving behind or under Arkveld if you're a bit too close to run to the sides. If you're careful, you can get a Longsword gauge level up from this move, but it's not completely safe. This move, generally speaking, aims at where you are. You should just be able to run away from Arkveld to avoid this. There's a lot of downtime after Arkveld does this attack, so if you can avoid it, block it, counter it, etc., you have a pretty big opening. Besides running away, running at an angle and timing a roll can help you get behind Arkveld and avoid the point of impact. It's a little vague, but you want to avoid both blades. Arkveld will usually do this when you buy one of his sides. It's relatively easy to avoid as long as you're paying attention to where you're standing. This move is quite fast and doesn't have much end lag, so I don't recommend you try to get Longsword gauge off of it. A quite common longer range attack, relatively easy to avoid by rolling to the opposite side he's attacking from, but he almost never does this alone. This one has quite a lot of end lag, and is a good option for leveling up gauge with either Foresight or AI Spirit Slash. The single slam is usually done as a follow-up from another attack. When his chains are what I call unbound, many of his attacks are empowered. This one will now slam twice, but only on the side that he's attacking from. When countering with something like the AI Spirit Slash, make sure you're countering in the direction away from the second slam. I made the distinction just now that he only does one slam out of another move, because if he does a slam attack on its own, it will very likely have a second slam. You can avoid them like the single slam, but don't counter the first one. You can position or roll to avoid it, and then counter the second one. You'll most likely see this when he's charged up, but he does have a version where he isn't. It's the same as the single and double ones, except he slams both down at the same time. The main tricky part of this move is the slow wind-up. You'll need to figure out at what time you should prepare your counter, guard, offset, evade, etc. His chains are a weak spot for focus strikes during this move. I'll go over timing in another section. A tricky move, especially if it's not aimed at you, it can be very difficult to avoid. Generally speaking, he does this attack to hit you from the side, and it is an attack, not a movement action. Pretty common too. Generally speaking, a good way to avoid it is to run or roll towards him, then opposite to whatever direction he's attacking from. He will always follow up his flip with an attack, such as the single chain slam. I recommend you try and evade both of these attacks, as they're both a bit too fast to counter, though that depends on how your weapon works. This is similar to the somersault, but without having an attack be part of it. He will very likely follow up with an attack though, so be aware of that. This move is really tricky. There's a single chain that whips out to grab you partway through the attack. That is what you need to avoid. The spin and twirl is just to confuse you. Move to the left or right to avoid it. If you do get grabbed, try to notice it as soon as possible and start spamming the top face button. On Xbox controllers it's Y. Otherwise, if you didn't know, while you're on the ground you're invincible. Being stunned forces you to stand up. Finally, there's a couple of attacks of lesser consequence, but it's important to know they exist either way. The bite is a very short range attack, and you can do it twice in a row. It's pretty fast and doesn't have much end lag, so I'd file this one under attacks to avoid, but maybe not counter. At least not a long counter. Then there's the tail whip. Whenever you're behind Arkveld, you want to be aware of these tail attacks. It can come from the left or right. This one seems like it'll come out more if you're at his sides, and you can potentially do it one after another. You can try to counter, just don't overcommit. Then there's the tail stab. It's got quite a lot of range, but not a lot of tracking. If you see this coming, either roll out of the way or counter it. It has a slower end lag. His charged up state, I call Unbound, will empower his attacks and enable us to topple him once we bind each of the chains. There are some moves that are exclusive to this state. This is one unique move. His chains will cause two explosions, one after the other. The one closest to him will explode first, followed quickly by the other. It's relatively easy to avoid, you just run out of the red areas. Just make sure you're paying attention to when each will explode, and don't try to be fancy. This move is very similar to the big chain slam, but you can differentiate them by how his arms move. He will lift one arm first, then the other, and then slam. You can use this as a guide for when to do a counter as well. There's a decent opening just after. Another one of his big attacks. It's intimidating, but if you're close enough to his front, it actually misses you entirely. This one also gives you a weak spot to focus strike on his chains. If you're too far away, sheath your weapon immediately and prepare to dive. Try and run away or to the sides as fast as you can. The last explosion has more range than the others. I swear he normally does this one when he's low HP, but maybe depending on the difficulty of the fight, he may do it even at the very start. This move is very dangerous and can be hard to deal with. If you get hit by the first swing, you may end up getting hit by the third one as well. I would recommend you try to counter or evade the first swing, and do your best to position yourself as far behind him as possible. Alternatively, foresight the first 2 hits, and use EI Spirit Slash for the third. Arkveld's highest hit zone, the part that he takes the most damage, will be his chains, and while he's unbound, dealing enough damage to a chain will bind it. This is your main goal throughout the fight, generally speaking. Besides breaking his horn or tail for those parts, breaking and attacking his chains is your primary target. Pay attention to the state of his chain blades. If one is bound, and the other one becomes bound, then he will topple and give you a very big opening. The fact is, no matter how big the opening is, if you're not ready for it and positioning properly, you won't be able to fully take advantage of it. While sharpening and healing in Wilds is much safer than other titles, you may also opt to use this time to use items, though I would recommend you attack instead. Remember to focus on the chains for the most damage, but this is a great opening for his head if you want to break it for materials. For this next section, I'll be trying to give advice on timing for evasion and counters and the like. I'll be focusing on Longsword for this video, but it may be transferable to some other weapons. The timing can be pretty confusing, so to hopefully help with that, I'll be using color overlays. To explain what I'm trying to do, I'm blocking the attack and marking the point where my stamina is drained. From that point, I overlap what I believe to be the frames for Foresight and EI Spirit Slash. Here's green for the absolute earliest that you can use a Foresight Slash. You should do it somewhere in the middle of that green, not at the beginning of it. Try and aim for slightly before the roar fully hits you. Here it is again. I'll pause at the moment the roar actually hits. This is a little hard to explain, so hopefully it's coming across alright. Notice that this roar is happening when his head is above his shoulders. Aim for just before that part of the animation for your counter/evade. I don't know the exact frame data, so I don't want to say, but Foresight is pretty forgiving, EI Spirit Slash is not. Here's that timing, this time in blue. Here it is again. I hope this is getting across what I'm trying to show. Remember, I'm showing possibly the earliest you can do it, so you should try and get closer to the actual hit. If it's not helpful, sorry, you can skip this section. Let's go over a couple of other moves. Remember, this will all take a lot of practice before you get consistent. This is the roar he does when he becomes unbound. It's largely the same timing as his regular one. Pay attention to his head going above his shoulders. His chain attacks are pretty common, and it can be useful to get the timing on countering them down. For foresighting, aim to do it as his arm is coming out from behind his back. For an EI Spirit Slash, similar to Dark Souls, try to parry a little bit after his arm starts swinging towards you, or just before it hits you. This timing is actually pretty simple. You can aim to do your action right as he slams his hands down, or just before. This move is very similar to the last one. You can tell it's different by him lifting his arms one at a time. The timing is different. For foresighting this attack, you can aim to do it around when he jumps off the ground. For using EI Spirit Slash, you can aim for just before his closest arm will connect with you. Hopefully that helped. I'm still trying to figure out how I want to explain evasion and similar mechanics. Let me know if it helped out, or if you have any input on it. Now, here's an example hunt of Arkveld. By now you should be aware of this sneak attack, though for Longsword you could opt to do a spirit charge instead, to start the hunt with a white gauge. Whatever you do, try and counter the roar he does, either with a Foresight or EI Spirit Slash. Earplugs will prevent us from being stunned, but you can get a free gauge this way. Getting a firm handle on counter will simplify this fight quite a lot. The more momentum you can preserve, the better off you'll be. It's a hard thing to do consistently, so feel free to back off when you need to heal or sharpen, etc. When you have a big opening, the optimal combo seems to be Crimson Slash 1 followed by Spirit Blade 1, which is just the top face button and R over and over again. I'd say if you have time, when you get closer to Red Gauge ending, you can use a Helmbreaker if you'd like. Don't forget that you can increase Red Gauge slightly by doing a Spirit Round Slash and the follow-up that you can only do in Red Gauge, the Spinning Crimson Slash. The timing of Crimson Slash into Foresight Whirl is a bit tricky. If you're trying to feel out the timing, I'd recommend using a Thrust instead. Remember, if you're out of Spirit Gauge, you can't use a Foresight Slash, so be careful. There is a way to do it, but it's a somewhat more advanced tech. I won't pull down the pillar because you won't always have access to it, but if you do, then you should use it. A huge utility of Spirit Slash 1 and 2 is that you can move quite a distance if you hold the direction while doing it. A huge muscle memory that you'll need to develop is aiming your Foresight Slash. It may not be intuitive at first, but you'll get the hang of it. The general idea is to move away from where you want to go, passing through an incoming attack. It's important not only to use Foresight through an attack, but also to land in a place where you can then follow up appropriately. That was a pin attack. Do your best to avoid it. Don't play too risky, it can be dangerous. I highly recommend not trying to EI Spirit Slash to follow up attack after a somersault. The timing is way too tight. Use a Foresight through both instead, it's just safer. Longsword wants to be constantly attacking, weaving in and out of combos, since your main survivability moves can only be done after an attack of some sort. You'll need to learn when to evade in between your combos. To deal the most damage, focus entirely on Arkveld's chain blades, they have the highest hit zone, though if you need to break another part, that's fine too. I unfortunately noticed too late that I was out of Spirit Gauge. The advanced tech could have saved me here, but I'm still not used to it. The basic idea is, you need Spirit Gauge to Foresight. You can Spirit Charge out of any attack. Spirit Charge generates Gauge and can be cancelled into Foresight. When this attack happens, act as quickly as you can. If you're close, get right in front of his face. If you're too far, run away or to the sides as soon as possible. If you can get close, remember to focus strike his chain blades, as they are a weak spot during this attack. Sharpness is very important. General rule of thumb is try to stay in white sharpness, but never drop below blue. Pay attention to your minimap. When the color of the border turns white, it means the monster is running away. When you see this, you have time to attack, use items, or just get ready to also leave and follow it. Ideally, you should fast travel to a camp near where he's traveling to. If you ever need to fight him in the dune areas, make sure you're on more or less level ground. It can be very difficult to maneuver effectively when you're sliding in one direction. Remember to use Might and Adamant Seeds. You can rebuff when you chase down the monster if it runs. EI Spirit Slash is a ton of fun to pull off, but you have to have both good reaction times and be good at prediction. Both of these things will come with practice and familiarity. Juggling the thrust and rising slash to space out your attacks for a foresight is something you should get used to. If you see a wound, before doing any combos, be sure to do a focus strike on it to get a spirit gauge level, especially if you're in white gauge, as you can then follow up the focus strike pretty quickly with a spirit round slash. It's up to you if you pop wounds with focus strike. I usually leave them for if I need them or I see a lot to pop all at once. The damage may be higher with focus strikes, I'm not really sure, but your focus should be more on mastery of the fundamentals first. Wounds will happen, and they can deal a bunch of damage, but if you take unnecessary risks to get to them, or don't work on your counters and parries, well, it'll only get you so far. I want you to stride confidently across that finish line, not crawl. I accidentally popped this wound. In retrospect, I could have done a Helmbreaker here. Fortunately, there was another. Keep in mind you can move in any direction while doing a focus strike with Longsword. Choose wisely. When his chains are unbound, he has access to more dangerous attacks. Your main goal right now should be to bind each chain. But don't take unnecessary risks to do so. Also, keep in mind that any damage is good damage. Don't tunnel vision on one thing too much. As you can see, the timing is pretty tight for an EI Spirit Slash for that follow-up. You can do it, I just don't recommend it, especially not without the Quick Sheath armor skill. Remember to sharpen and heal regularly. That was his Rampage Barrage. The way I avoided it was pretty decent, but you can also try to counter the third hit if you think you can. If you're ever being pulled deeper into this type of sand trap, call your Sacred, it can help you escape. That ding sound means you need to lock the fuck in. You're stunned and you need to spin your stick in a circle quickly to recover faster. As you can see, a couple of mistakes can easily lead to your death. I mistimed my EI counter and I didn't act quickly enough to do a foresight after being hit. The most important thing is to stay calm. As long as you still have 1 HP, I want you to keep a level head and focus on what your next move is. Your health going up is more important than their health going down. You need to hit them like 100 times before they go down. They only need to hit you like 3 or 4. Monster Hunter is an endurance game. It's one thing to counter an attack here or there, it's another entirely to do it consistently for 15 minutes straight. It's not enough to simply win, you should aim to dominate, to master the hunt, as you'll likely need to do it multiple times in order to craft the weapons and armor. Arkveld seems to make his way here when he's close to death. Keep a trap and some tranks on you if you want to end the fight early by capturing him. Pay attention to the endemic life around you. There are wiggly lichies around to enhance your stamina recovery, and some vigor mantle bugs to top off your health. They're good pickups as you enter the last area. A monster will regenerate its health when it goes to sleep, so don't let it do that for too long. The first hit that wakes up a monster will have its damage multiplied. I like to use the spirit charge to get back to red gauge. Using large barrel bombs is a good idea too. Learn the tendencies of monsters. When you wake them up, they will most likely roar at you, and you can counter that. Arkveld has a skull icon by his icon on the minimap. This means it is close to death, and is also an indicator that you can capture it, so keep an eye out. That being said, the last thing I want you to do is play stupid by trying to get the last bit of health that he has. Pretend that he has around 50% health at all times. He'll go down when he's done fighting. I'll be honest, I'm playing like an idiot here because I wanted to try and get a fancy finish. Do what you'd like, just make sure you're keeping yourself above 60% health at least. Just as with the rock pillar, if you get a mount, feel free to use it. I just wanted to focus purely on the combat for this video. That was it. I could feel it. Would have been a cool finish, huh? Anyways, like I said, don't play like an idiot like I was. If you're struggling with this fight, that's normal. This is the final test of the base game. All you can do is just keep trying. Practice and practice. And keep in mind this is a cooperative game. This series was actually designed from the ground up to be one. If you need help, don't be afraid to seek it out. And don't forget to take breaks if you need to. Remember to be patient with yourself. It would have been cooler if I did a fancier attack. To make either of the alpha or beta armor sets, this is what you'll need. Going off of what the field guide says, for clearing the quest you can get Arkveld Scale Plus, Arkveld Armor Plate, Monster Hardbone, White Arkveld Pelt, Arkveld Horn Plus, Arkveld Tail, Arkveld Certificate S, and an Arkveld Gem. For destroying a wound you can get Arkveld Scale Plus, Arkveld Armor Plate, or white Arkveld pelt. When carving his body, you can get Arkveld Scale Plus, Arkveld Armor Plate, white Arkveld pelt, Arkveld Horn Plus, Arkveld Tail, or an Arkveld Gem. When carving his tail, you can get an Arkveld Tail or an Arkveld Gem. Breaking his chain blades will guarantee a Callous Shell drop, and you should be trying to break his chain blades either way, as it's his best hit zone. Also, breaking his head will guarantee an Arkveld Horn Plus drop. Wyvern gems are obtained from various wyverns: Gravia, Cerebami, Rompopolo, Balahara, and Quimitrice. They all have a 3% chance to get one as a quest reward, or a 5% chance to carve from its body. Balahara and Quimitrice also have tail carves that have a 7% chance to drop it, so I would recommend you farm from those. You may also find some investigations with a guaranteed wyvern gem as a reward, so keep your eye out for those, and make sure to save them so you can do them up to 4 times, as that's 4 wyvern gems right there. Arkveld gems can be tough to get. Make sure you're cutting his tail and carving it for the maximum chance. I believe eating in his zoos while they offer it can also help, as it can give you the carver meal, letting you carve more times. And be sure to look for any field surveys with a guaranteed gem to turn into investigations, like with the wyvern gems before, though if you see one with plenty of bonus rewards, consider farming that one as well. You will also be able to make the Guardian Arkveld armor sets, but I won't get into that here. They're quite expensive to make, requiring a gem for each part. By default, the Alpha armor set gives you Weakness Exploit 3, Convert Element 3, Recovery Speed 3, Elemental Absorption 3, and Quick Sheath 2. It also comes with 4 level 2 decoration slots and 2 level 1 decoration slots. The Alpha set also has a group skill, Fortifying Pelt, which activates the Fortify Armor skill, which will, quote, increase your attack and defense after fainting during a quest up to 2 times. This could be nice if you find yourself carding often, or for those who like to live on the edge. By default, the Beta armor set gives you Weakness Exploit 3, Convert Element 3, Recovery Speed 1, and Quick Sheath 1, in exchange for a total of 3 level 3 decoration slots, 4 level 2 decoration slots, and 5 level 1 decoration slots. The Beta set also comes with the group skill Alluring Pelt, which activates the Diversion armor skill, which will, quote, increase the attention drawn to you when attacking a monster. This could make it a little easier to get counters when playing in multiplayer, but having the monster focus on you more is obviously more risky. The Alpha and Beta sets are the same, but Alpha has more skills and less decoration slots, Beta has more decoration slots but less skills. Ideally, you will be mixing and matching these pieces. I recommend you look at each Alpha piece and compare it to the Beta one. If you're not losing any skill you care about, you can consider getting the Beta one. If you're having trouble deciding, as far as I'm aware, Beta armors are almost always the better choice due to how powerful the customization from decorations is, but it will likely depend on the piece of armor in particular. If you really want to min-max, you should use an armor skill calculator, but that's beyond the scope of this video. Both versions also come with a set bonus, Arkveld's Hunger, which activates the armor skill Hasten Recovery 1 and Hasten Recovery 2. This bonus will, quote, regenerate a small amount of your health as you continually attack a monster. Recovery varies by weapon. It seems like it's a health augment from World if you're familiar, or the Bloodright armor skill from Sunbreak. It's not quite as immediate as the Guardian set bonus, but it's still quite good. It seems to heal you in bursts after attacking a bunch, but I'm still not quite 100% on how it works. Along with Recovery Speed 3, which seems a lot stronger than normal, this armor can help do what armor usually does best: keep you alive. Though I wouldn't rely on this skill to heal you up right away after taking damage. If you play well consistently, it can heal you to full over time without needing to stop and heal for safety. Weakness Exploit will be at 3 out of 5 for either set. This will make attacks that hit weak points have 15% extra affinity, and if you hit a wound, it'll be 10% extra. Affinity is your critical strike chance, and by default, a critical strike deals 25% more damage. Convert Element will also be 3 out of 3 for either set. It's a bit confusing, but the skill reads, after taking elemental damage, temporarily grants you Dragon Element effects. It seems to work best with Dragon Element, I think. Because this armor set is so good at taking damage and recovering from it, having a skill that relies on getting hit to activate it isn't quite that bad really, and it seems to last a decent length of time. Recovery Speed will be 3 out of 3 on the Alpha, and 1 out of 3 on the Beta. The skill is actually pretty good in this game. With how much defense this set already has, you won't be taking too much damage, and when you do, you'll heal red health quite fast. As long as you're not taking damage left and right, with the Arkveld set bonus, if you play well, you'll never need to use a potion again. To explain what red health is, from my understanding, whenever you're hit, half of the damage taken is turned into what is called red health, which is health that is recoverable, assuming you don't take damage again. It can encourage you to keep up progression after making a mistake, as long as you're being careful. Elemental Absorption is 3 out of 3 on the alpha set, but missing from the beta set. This skill reads, after taking elemental damage, temporarily grants you element effects. Not the best description, but the levels are a little more helpful. When you're hit by an element attack, it will increase your own attack and your resistance to whatever element you were hit by. Not bad, helps make getting hit a lot less punishing. It's sort of funny to put in an armor set for someone who seemingly conquered the hardest boss in the game, so far at least. Maybe it'll make sense for a monster added later on, we'll just have to see. Quick Shield will be level 2 out of 3 on the alpha, and 1 out of 3 on the beta. It's a useful skill, does what it says on the tin, makes you shoot your weapon faster. For some weapons this is useful, and for some, like Longsword, you'll at least be getting a near constant use out of it during hunts. I know it was quite useful in Rise, but I'm not so sure in Wilds. From some very light and non-scientific testing, compared to not having it at all, Quick Sheath 3 makes sheathing and Special Sheath almost 30% faster. That's all I've got for this video. I hope this can help you clear the quest if you're struggling. It's pretty tough if you're not very familiar with all the mechanics just yet. It may seem like a load of BS, but don't give up. Be patient with yourself. Keep trying and you may find that you like the fight quite a lot. If you watched this video just to watch it, I want to thank you as well. Hopefully a glimpse into 6th gen Monster Hunter for those curious gives you a better idea of what it's like. Or maybe you just like watching Wilds content, that's cool too. Either way, thank you for watching. Like and subscribe, links in the description, join the membership. I'll see you in the next one.